My name is Cassidy Harlow. I'm 26 years old. For most of my life, I was the family joke. The one who couldn't finish college. The one who worked the front desk at my own family's company for $11 an hour while my brother Brandon drove a company Porsche and signed contracts worth millions. They called me unfocused, unreliable, too emotional to be trusted with anything important. But on the night, my father stood in front of 400 people and announced that Brandon would inherit every single thing my grandfather had ever built, a $62 million logistics empire called Harlow & Sons. A man I had never seen before walked up to me in the hotel lobby, pressed an envelope into my hands, and said 6 words I will never forget. "Your grandfather wanted you to know." What was inside that envelope didn't just change my life. It dismantled a lie my family had been carefully constructing for 23 years. A lie about who I was, what I was capable of, and what I actually deserved. What they didn't know, what none of them ever suspected, was that while they were busy deciding my future, my grandfather Wallace Harlow had been quietly, methodically, making sure that future was mine to decide for myself. This is the story of how I went from mopping floors in a building that bore my family's name to owning the majority of it, and why I'd do every painful year of it over again, because it built me into someone they never saw coming. Let's go back to the beginning. My grandfather Wallace Harlow built Harlow & Sons freight and logistics from a single truck and a phone in a Tulsa garage in 1971. By the time I was born in 1998, the company had 340 employees, 12 distribution hubs across the country, and annual revenues my father liked to mention at dinner parties in a tone that implied he'd personally earned every dollar. He hadn't. My grandfather had. Wallace Harlow was a big man. Not just physically, though he was that too, 6'2" with hands that looked like they'd been designed for lifting engine blocks, but big in the way that people with real character are big. He filled rooms. He remembered names. He laughed from his chest. He was the kind of man who would spend 40 minutes with a dock worker explaining why a safety regulation mattered, not because the lawyer told him to, but because he thought it was the right thing to do. My father, Dennis Harlow, was not that kind of man. Dennis was polished. Dennis wore suits that cost more than most people's car payments. Dennis sat at the head of the board table at Harlow & Sons and spoke in the kind of measured, confident tones that made investors feel safe. He was good at the performance of authority. What he was not good at was the actual work underneath it. He'd stepped into the CEO role when my grandfather semi-retired in 2015, and within 3 years, he'd lost 2 major shipping contracts, restructured the workforce twice, and developed a management philosophy that could be summarized in one sentence. Surround yourself with people who make you look good and remove the ones who don't. My brother Brandon was very good at making Dennis look good. Brandon Harlow was 29 years old, Stanford MBA, smooth in conversation, effortlessly confident in boardrooms. He looked the part, he spoke the part, and my father had spent Brandon's entire life grooming him to play it. Private school, internships at partner firms, mentorship from senior executives, all of it funneled toward the single predetermined destination of Brandon becoming the next face of Harlow & Sons. And me, I had panic disorder, diagnosed at 15. The kind that makes standardized testing feel like drowning, that turns crowded lecture halls into sensory emergencies, that doesn't care how hard you're trying because it's already decided to shut your body down anyway. I left Ohio State after 18 months, not because I was stupid, not because I didn't try, but because the infrastructure of traditional academia wasn't built for a brain like mine, and my family wasn't willing to help me find a different path. My mother, Renata, suggested I take some time to figure myself out. My father suggested I look into vocational training. My brother said nothing, which was almost worse, so I did what felt logical. I asked to work at Harlow & Sons. My father agreed, with conditions. I would start as a front desk receptionist. Salary $11 an hour. No title advancement until I demonstrated the discipline required for corporate responsibility. His words. I was 21 years old, sitting across from my own father in a glass-walled office in a building that had my last name carved above the front door, being told that I would need to prove I deserved to be there. I said yes, because I had no other option, and because part of me still believed that if I worked hard enough, he'd eventually see it. That was the first mistake, believing that people who have decided what you are will ever look hard enough to see what you actually are. If you've ever been told by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally that you simply weren't enough, I want you to type the word "seen" in the comments right now, because you are seen. And this story is for you. Keep watching, because what happens next is where everything starts to change. I worked the front desk at Harlow & Sons for 14 months. I answered phones, managed the executive calendar, handled visitor check-ins, signed for packages, and maintained the lobby with a level of care that nobody ever acknowledged and everybody immediately noticed if it slipped. I was invisible in the way that essential infrastructure is invisible. You only become aware it exists when it breaks. What I did during those 14 months, beyond the job description, was watch. I watched how the company actually ran. Not from the boardroom, but from the lobby, which is where the truth of any organization lives. I watched which vendor reps came in nervous and which ones came in like they owned the place. I watched which executives stayed late and which ones left at 4. I watched the body language in the hallways when contract negotiations were going badly, and I watched the paper trail of courier deliveries that told a story of which partnerships were real and which were held together with increasingly desperate correspondence. I also started talking to people. Not schmoozing, not networking in the way that Brandon did it, with calculated purpose and a business card always ready. Just actually talking. To Marcus, the overnight warehouse supervisor who'd been with the company since 1994 and knew where every operational problem was buried. To Donna, the accounts payable manager who processed every invoice and had opinions, sharp and specific, about which vendor relationships were bleeding money. To Ray Chen, the regional logistics coordinator who had been trying to get Dennis to read his efficiency report for 8 months and had started to suspect nobody ever would. These conversations weren't strategic. They were genuine. I was curious about the company, about what made it work, about what my grandfather had built, and slowly, over 14 months, a picture emerged. Harlow & Sons was in quiet trouble, not the kind of trouble that shows up on a quarterly earnings call. The kind that lives underneath the numbers, inefficiencies compounding gradually, vendor contracts structured in ways that made the top line look clean while the margins eroded, a middle management layer that was loyal to Dennis personally rather than to operational excellence. 2 of the company's highest performing regional directors had quietly begun fielding calls from competitors. I wrote it all down, not in a formal memo, not in a presentation. Just in a spiral notebook I kept in my desk drawer, the way I'd learned to organize my thoughts when reading was hard, through diagrams, through patterns, through visual maps of cause and effect. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew it felt important. In the spring of 2023, 2 things happened. First, my grandfather's health declined sharply. Wallace had been living with early-stage Parkinson's since 2020, managing it quietly, still attending monthly board meetings via video call, still calling me every Sunday afternoon the way he had since I was a child. In March 2023, those calls started to change. His voice was thinner. He got tired faster, but the sharpness in his thinking never dimmed. "Grandpa," I asked him during one of those calls, "are you okay?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Cassie, I've been okay for 81 years. I'm not going to stop now, but I want to ask you something. Ask me. Are you happy there at the company?" I thought about it, not the diplomatic answer. The real one. "I'm learning a lot," I said. "I see things other people don't see. I know you do." His voice was careful. "That's why I wanted you there." His breath was steady but deliberate, the way it got when he was choosing words precisely. "You remind me of myself, not of Dennis, of me." I didn't know what to say to that. "Just keep watching, Cassie. Keep writing things down." He paused. "And keep the notebook somewhere safe." The second thing that happened in spring 2023 was that Brandon was appointed Chief Operating Officer. His salary was announced internally, $310,000 plus profit share. His new corner office was 2 floors above mine. The company-wide email from Dennis described Brandon as the next generation of Harlow leadership, and referenced his exceptional strategic vision and proven track record of operational excellence. Brandon had been at the company for 4 years. In that time, he had introduced one new vendor relationship, restructured a regional team in ways that produced 3 months of gains followed by 7 months of turnover problems, and attended more industry conferences than I could count, producing what the company called brand presence and what Donna in accounts payable privately called very expensive LinkedIn content. I went home that night, sat on my apartment floor, and let myself feel it. All of it. The unfairness. The exhaustion. The specific grief of watching someone else receive, effortlessly, what you have been working for with your entire body. And then I opened my notebook and kept writing. Because the thing about being overlooked for long enough is that eventually you stop needing their validation to know your own worth. And the thing about watching for long enough is that eventually you start to see things even the people in charge don't know are visible. My grandfather called the following Sunday. "Cassie," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "I need you to go see a man named Arthur Vance. He's my attorney. He has an office in downtown Tulsa on 5th. I want you to meet him." "Why? What for? You'll understand when you get there." "Just go soon, Cassie, okay?" I went that week. Arthur Vance was a lean, precise man in his late 60s with silver-rimmed glasses and the manner of someone who had spent decades keeping secrets that didn't belong to him. He shook my hand, invited me to sit, and slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. It was a document summary. The heading read, "Harlow & Sons Freight and Logistics, Founders Trust, Second Amendment." Dated October 14, 2022. "Miss Harlow," he said, "your grandfather asked me to give you this. He also asked me to tell you one thing." "What?" he said. "She'll need it sooner than she thinks." I stared at the paper. The summary was exactly that, a summary, not the full document. Enough to tell me the shape of what existed without revealing the full contents. What I read told me that my grandfather had done something significant with his ownership stake. Something that the 2015 board documentation Dennis had been operating from did not reflect. What he had done, precisely, I would not fully understand until the night of the gala. But I went home and I put the document in the same place I kept the notebook. And I waited. September 14th, 2024. The Tulsa Grand Ballroom. The Harlow & Sons 50th anniversary gala had been in planning for almost a year. 400 guests, a live band, a video retrospective that had cost $40,000 to produce and opened with grainy footage of my grandfather's first truck pulling out of a Tulsa garage. It was a beautiful production. Wallace Harlow deserved every word of it. What he did not deserve was what my father had decided to tack onto the end of it. I knew something was coming. Renata had been unusually careful around me for 2 weeks. Brandon had been self-consciously generous at the pre-event dinner, making a point of including me in conversations in a way he never otherwise did. The way people are kind to someone they know is about to receive bad news. I arrived alone in a navy dress I'd paid $94 for at a department store sale. My mother looked at it once and looked away. I was seated at table 16, near the side exit, between 2 regional vendor contacts who introduced themselves to each other twice during the evening and never introduced themselves to me. The band played. The food was served. The video ran. Watching my grandfather's face on that screen, younger, stronger, laughing with workers on the dock, I had to grip the edge of the table to hold myself together. Then the lights shifted to the stage. Dennis Harlow walked to the podium in a charcoal suit that cost more than 2 months of my salary. He thanked the board. He thanked the shareholders. He thanked, in particular, my mother for her steadfast partnership. He spoke about legacy, about vision, about what it means to build something that outlasts you. And then he said it. "Tonight, in honor of 50 years of Harlow family leadership, I'm proud to formalize something this family has long understood." He paused. "Brandon James Harlow will assume the role of CEO upon my retirement, which I am announcing tonight, effective January 1st, 2026. He will also receive, per the updated estate documents I have filed this week, the entirety of my personal holdings, our family home, my ownership stake in this company, and executive authority over the Harlow Family Trust." He looked at Brandon. Brandon smiled with the ease of a man who had always known this was his. I looked at my plate. 400 people applauded. My mother dabbed her eyes. Somewhere to my right, a board member I recognized from company photos was already standing, clapping. And I sat at table 16 and made a decision. I would not cry. Not here. Not in front of these people. Not tonight. I excused myself quietly and walked through the side exit into the hotel lobby. Marble floors, chandelier light. The muffled sound of the band starting back up behind the ballroom doors. I stood there for 90 seconds, just breathing. And that's when I heard footsteps approach. Miss Harlow, I turned. The man was older, early 70s perhaps, in a dark suit that was well made but understated. His posture was formal, careful. He was not a guest I recognized. I'm sorry to approach you at an event like this. His voice was measured. My name is Arthur Vance. I stared. Arthur Vance. The attorney. The man my grandfather had sent me to see 18 months ago. Your grandfather passed away 11 days ago, he said quietly. I'm deeply sorry for your loss. He asked me to wait until tonight to find you, to wait for this specific moment. His eyes moved briefly toward the ballroom doors. He was very specific about the timing. He reached into his jacket and produced an envelope. Cream-colored, thick stock, sealed with a notarial stamp bearing the name of his law firm. He said to tell you, "You're ready, Cassie. You've been ready for a long time. Now it's time to show them." My hands were steady as I took the envelope. I don't know how. They should not have been. Inside was a 4-page document. A will, the real and final one, Arthur confirmed, executed in October 2022 and updated with a codicil in March 2023. Witnessed, notarized, legally airtight under Oklahoma and federal estate law. I read slowly, carefully. The words did not swim the way they sometimes do. They were sharp and clear, and they landed in my chest like stones. To my granddaughter, Cassidy Ann Harlow, I bequeath 55% of my founding shares in Harlow & Sons Freight and Logistics, LLC, shares which have never been transferred, diluted, or signed over to my son Dennis, contrary to the 2015 internal restructuring documentation he filed with the board. The shares remain in the Harlow Founders Trust, of which Cassidy is named sole beneficiary. I read it 3 more times. Then I read the paragraph below it. This bequest is made with full knowledge that Cassidy has been systematically excluded from opportunity within this company. She was not excluded because she lacked capability. She was excluded because she was different, and because Dennis confused difference with deficiency. He was wrong. I have watched Cassidy for 26 years. She sees things others miss. She understands this company not from a boardroom but from the floor of it, which is where understanding actually lives. I built Harlow & Sons. I choose who carries it. I choose Cassidy. There was one more clause at the bottom, separated by a line. To activate this bequest, Cassidy must file a petition for an emergency board meeting within 60 hours of receiving this document. If she does not act within this window, the Founders Trust reverts to a charitable foundation I have designated. The deadline exists because I know my granddaughter. I know she will doubt herself. The deadline is not a punishment. It is permission to stop waiting, permission to begin. I stood in that hotel lobby for a long time, 60 hours, starting now. That meant I had until just past midnight 2 days from this moment to make a decision that would change the course of everything. Arthur Vance was waiting when I finally looked up. I have questions, I said. He almost smiled. I expected you would. That's why I blocked the next 3 hours in my calendar. We found a quiet corner of the hotel bar. And I started asking, if you've ever had someone in your life who believed in you before you believed in yourself, who saw the version of you that you were still becoming, I want you to type WALLACE in the comments. Because some people leave us gifts we don't fully understand until the moment we need them most. Don't go anywhere. The boardroom scene is next. And I promise you, you're going to want to see what happens to that smile on Brandon's face. The next 58 hours were the most focused of my life. I did not sleep much. I did not spiral. The panic that had defined so much of my adult life went quiet in a way I had not experienced before, as though my nervous system understood, instinctively, that this was the moment it had been storing up its resources for. Hour 1, I called Marcus, the warehouse supervisor. He'd been with the company since 1994 and had told me once over terrible vending machine coffee that he'd known Wallace Harlow longer than Dennis had been alive, and that if things ever changed at the top, he'd say a prayer of genuine thanks. "Marcus," I said, "I need your help. I need 3 board members who will sign a petition for an emergency meeting." He was quiet for 5 seconds. Then he said, "Call Donna first. She'll have names." Donna Chen did have names. She had a list, actually. The kind of list a person builds over years of watching a company from accounts payable, which is a vantage point from which you see everything. She gave me 2 board members who had been quietly expressing concerns about the company's direction for the better part of a year. Thomas Reeves, a retired logistics executive who joined the board at my grandfather's personal invitation, and Linda Park, a finance director who had abstained from 3 consecutive votes on Dennis's restructuring proposals. I called them both. I did not explain everything. I simply said that I had a legal document affecting the ownership structure of Harlow & Sons and that I was requesting a board meeting to present it. Both of them agreed within the hour. The petition was filed at 11:47 p.m. that night. At 7:15 the following morning, my phone rang. "Brandon, what did you do?" "Good morning to you too." Dad got a notification from the board secretary. "An emergency meeting, Cassidy, requested by Thomas Reeves." He's been on that board for 12 years and never requested an emergency meeting. His voice was controlled but thin. His control was an effort, not a default. "What is going on? I'll see you at the meeting." I hung up. 40 minutes later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. The Harlow & Sons boardroom was on the 14th floor of their downtown Tulsa office tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city my grandfather had called home for 81 years. A long walnut table. 14 chairs, portraits on the wall, and one of them near the east corner was Wallace Harlow, painted in 2004. His eyes in the portrait looked exactly like his eyes in real life. Present, measuring, warm. I arrived in a gray blazer I'd borrowed from Donna, who was 4 inches taller than me and whose sleeves I'd rolled twice. My portfolio was a leather folder I'd found at a second-hand shop for $8. My heels were the ones I'd bought for a job interview in 2021. The security guard at the door checked his tablet. "Your name isn't on the attendee list. I'm Cassidy Harlow. I have standing as a named beneficiary of the Harlow Founders Trust, which is the subject of this meeting." He looked uncertain. Before he could respond, Thomas Reeves appeared behind him. "She's with me," he said it flatly. The security guard stepped aside. The board filed in. 14 members. Dennis at the head, already visibly furious, his jaw set, his eyes moving from Thomas to me with the rapid calculation of a man rearranging a situation he didn't understand. Brandon sat to his right, not looking at me. Linda Park sat across the table. Arthur Vance took a seat in the corner with his briefcase. The board chair, a steady woman named Patricia Owens, who had been on the Harlow board for 9 years and who conducted meetings with the controlled precision of someone who'd seen corporate drama before and had opinions about wasting time, called the session to order. "Thomas, you requested this meeting. The floor is yours." Thomas nodded toward me. I yield to Cassidy Harlow. 14 pairs of eyes came to rest on me. Dennis leaned forward. "Patricia, before we allow a non-board employee to..." Patricia held up one hand. "She is standing per the petition." "Cassidy, proceed." I opened my portfolio. "Thank you. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I'm going to be direct." I placed the will on the table. This is the last will and testament of Wallace Harlow, executed in October 2022 and updated in March 2023. It was prepared by Arthur Vance of Vance and Associates, who is present today to authenticate it. Arthur rose, identified himself, confirmed the document's provenance, the escrow location of the original, the independent witnesses. When he said the words "legally binding under Oklahoma estate law," Dennis's hand clenched on the table. "That is not possible," Dennis said, his voice low and controlled. "My father signed over his shares in 2015. Arthur's response was immediate. He did not. The 2015 internal restructuring document altered the voting structure of the board. It did not transfer the founders' trust shares. Those shares remained in the trust. That trust names Cassidy as the sole beneficiary. He set a second document on the table, a side-by-side legal comparison. The 2015 restructuring document and the founders' trust original charter, with the relevant discrepancies highlighted in yellow. The room was very quiet. Brandon spoke for the first time. His voice was careful, even the voice of someone who had been trained to sound reasonable under pressure. Cassidy has no corporate experience. She has worked a front desk position. Even if this document is valid, and we will be having it reviewed by independent counsel, she is not equipped to. I'm not asking to run the company. I set my notebook on the table, the spiral-bound one, the one I'd been filling for 26 months. I'm asking you to look at what I've been doing for the past 2 years. I walk them through it, not defensively, not emotionally, methodically. The operational inefficiencies, the vendor contracts. The 2 regional directors who were being courted by competitors, one of whom I'd learned from Marcus just the night before, had already accepted an offer. The accounts payable patterns that Donna had flagged internally and that Dennis's office had not acted on. The efficiency report from Ray Chen that had been sitting unread for 8 months. 14 board members who had arrived that morning prepared to watch a procedural meeting turned the pages of my notebook in silence. Patricia Owens looked up. This data is accurate? To the best of my knowledge and the knowledge of the employees who shared it with me, yes. I met her eyes. I've had 26 months to watch this company from a place where the truth is visible. The lobby, the loading dock, the accounts payable office. My grandfather built this company from a garage. He understood that the truth of a business lives in the work, not in the boardroom presentations about the work. Linda Park leaned forward. You said one of the regional directors has already accepted a competitor's offer. Which region? Southwest. Marcus Chen can confirm. Patricia set down the notebook. She turned to Dennis. Dennis, do you have anything to add? Dennis Harlow, CEO of Harlow & Sons, the man who had told me at 21 that I would need to prove I deserved to be in that building, said nothing for 4 full seconds. Then he said, "This is a personal vendetta. My daughter is unstable. She has a history of Patricia's hand went up again. That's enough." It was 3 words, but they landed with the weight of someone who had heard enough. She looked at Arthur. Counsel, please confirm. As majority shareholder of the Harlow Founders Trust, what authority does Cassidy Harlow hold with respect to executive leadership? Arthur's answer was precise. As majority shareholder, she holds the right to propose board motions on any matter of company governance, including executive leadership. Patricia turned to me. Do you have a motion? I stood up straight. I'm not proposing Dennis's removal, I said. I am proposing a governance review, a 60-day independent audit of operational and financial performance conducted by an outside firm, with the results reported directly to the full board. At the conclusion of that audit, the board will vote on executive leadership with complete information. I paused. If that audit shows that current leadership is serving this company well, I will defer to the board's judgment. If it shows what I believe it shows, I trust the board to make the right call. Thomas Reeves seconded the motion before I'd finished my last sentence. The vote was 9-5. The audit was approved. Dennis stood. His chair scraped back. His face was the color of old concrete. He looked at me, really looked at me, the way he never had in 26 years, and I saw it. Not anger, not hatred. Something older and more complicated. He walked out. Brandon sat for 30 seconds more. Then he followed. I sat back down and put my hand flat on the table to stop it from shaking. Patricia Owens, across the table, gave me one quiet, precise nod. The audit took 53 days. I was not in the building for most of it. I stayed in my apartment, went to therapy twice a week, something I'd been doing for 2 years, something that had given me more useful tools than any MBA program could have, and answered questions when the auditors called, which they did regularly, because my notebook turned out to contain things that were hard to find anywhere else. The results came in on a Thursday in November. The audit firm's summary was 47 pages. I will give you the version that matters. Harlow & Sons had been underperforming its sector benchmark by 18% over 3 years. 4 vendor contracts contained terms that were unfavorable to the company and appeared to have been structured hastily. The Southwest Regional Director had in fact departed, taking 2 key client accounts with him. And the efficiency report from Ray Chen, if implemented, would have recovered an estimated $2.1 million in annual operational costs. Dennis Harlow resigned 4 days after the report was delivered to the board. His resignation letter was 2 paragraphs. It thanked the company for the opportunity. It wished the board well. It did not mention me. Brandon resigned the following week. He had, I learned, already been fielding calls from a private equity firm in Dallas. He called me once the night before his last day. The call was brief and stilted, and we said things that were true but insufficient. We agreed to talk more later. We haven't yet, but the door isn't closed. Not by me anyway. My mother called me 3 times in November. The first 2 calls I let go to voicemail. The third one I answered. "Cassidy," she said, her voice stripped of its usual careful composure. "I need you to know that she stopped. Started again. I didn't protect you. I knew how your father treated you, and I didn't protect you. I told myself it was better not to make things worse. But that was cowardice. That was me protecting myself." It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. "I can't undo 26 years, Mom, but I'm willing to see what an honest relationship looks like. That's all I have right now." She accepted that. We're having lunch, carefully, occasionally. It's not the relationship I needed as a child. But it's the relationship I can have as an adult, and I'm choosing to try. In December 2024, the board appointed Patricia Owens as interim CEO while the executive search was conducted. She asked me to serve as a consultant to the process. I said yes. In January 2025, I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in downtown Tulsa. Real furniture. A kitchen that gets morning light. A wall where I pinned a photograph of my grandfather standing in front of his first truck in 1971, 23 years old, squinting into the sun. My salary, negotiated by Arthur Vance on my behalf, as a board-level strategic consultant and majority trust beneficiary, is $175,000 a year plus distributions. The first time I saw my paycheck, I sat on my bathroom floor for about 10 minutes processing it. Marcus got a promotion. Donna's operational flags are now part of a formal quarterly review process. Ray Chen's efficiency report is being implemented in 3 phases. He called me when he found out. He cried a little. I cried a little. We agreed not to mention it again. I still have the notebook. I've started a new one. Here is what I know now that I did not know at 21, sitting across from my father and agreeing to be paid $11 an hour to answer phones in a building with my name above the door. My panic disorder is not a character flaw. It is a feature of my nervous system that I have spent years learning to work with rather than against. It did not disqualify me from any of this. In many ways, it gave me tools that people who sailed through conventional paths don't have: a particular attunement to pressure, to reading rooms, to the difference between what people say and what they mean. My grandfather did not leave me 55% of his company because I was better than Brandon. He left it to me because he believed that character matters more than performance reviews, because he watched me treat people with dignity regardless of title, because he believed that the person who understands a company from the floor of it is worth more than any number of people who only ever understood it from the executive suite. Dennis judged worth by credential. Wallace judged worth by character. I spent 23 years trying to be seen by someone who had already decided what I was. That time was not wasted. It built me, it taught me, it put me in rooms where I learned things I never would have learned from a corner office. But I will not spend another 23 years seeking approval from anyone who has to be convinced I deserve my own life. You don't need a secret will. You don't need a grandfather with a trust and an attorney who shows up at the right moment. What you need is the willingness to keep watching, keep writing, keep building the version of yourself that exists independent of anyone else's verdict. My grandfather believed in me before I believed in myself. That was his gift. But the decision to use it, to walk into that boardroom, to stand at that table, to speak with a steady voice when everything in me wanted to run, that was mine. Nobody can give you that, and nobody can take it away. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever been the one they counted out, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment with your story. I read every single one. And if you want more stories about ordinary people who found the courage to stand up for themselves when everything was stacked against them, the link is in the description. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Until next time.